welcome back to the channel. Today we break down episode 5, a chapter that begins with immediate danger but ends with the quieter, harder work of reconnecting and choosing to move forward. This episode had strong intentions, danger in the wild, old grief surfacing, and the slow work of people learning to trust each other again. It didn't always land perfectly, but the emotional center, Amy's struggle and Nathan and Caleb's conflict, remains the heart of the story. The episode opens where the previous one left off, a small plane in trouble. The tension is immediate. For a moment most viewers feared a full-on crash sequence, and the show leans into that dread. Caleb manages a forced landing into a field, a dangerous but survivable outcome. Relief should follow, yet the landing only exposes a new problem. They are stranded far from help, with limited supplies and a bear wandering in the nearby woods. The location is remote, the weather uncertain, and the resources thin. Right away, the story sets two priorities, survival and waiting for rescue, and the conflict between those priorities drives the first half of the episode. Back at home, Amy is working on Dale's horses. She learns the plane is missing. There's an attempt to organize an aerial search. Dale promises to dispatch a helicopter. The rescue plan exists, but the series makes a point early that emergencies cascade. Another call, another crisis, and the helicopter is delayed. That delay is crucial. It forces action. It forces characters who are comfortable with waiting for others to step up. Amy and Ashley decide the waiting is unacceptable. They saddle horses and ride out to find Caleb and Nathan themselves. This choice tells us about the characters. Amy is decisive when family is at stake. Ashley, for all her complicated past, is practical and ready to act. The decision to go search on horseback shows Heartland trying to return to core strengths: horses, the land, and people who take responsibility. It also brings up the real-world question the writer intended but skirted: riding into hostile territory on horseback without backup is risky. The show asks the audience to buy into the idea that two people on horseback will find a downed plane before trained rescue teams. That suspension of disbelief is part of what divides viewers. Some accept it as classic Heartland heroism, others see it as contrivance. Either way, the show uses this to build character moments, Amy leading, Ashley supporting, and the crew willing to act rather than wait. The professional pressure on Amy escalates. The Olympian owner, used to results and reputation, shares doubts. Rumors travel through social channels and local chatter. An easy advantage turns into threat when people assume the worst. The show stages a few key confrontations: the owner's impatience, a competitor's whisper, the community's gossip, and asks Amy to respond not with panic, but with competence. She organizes tests, consults peers, and pursues diagnostic leads. The series wants to show that integrity is a process, not a hashtag. The medical drama of the horse is done with restraint. Heartland avoids melodrama. There are no frantic surgeries or overly dramatic pronouncements. Instead, the diagnosis process is methodical: feed through possibilities, test, observe, rule out. That pacing may feel slow to viewers who expect constant spikes, but it's realistic. Veterinary medicine is often a sequence of patience and stubbornness, and Amy's perseverance is the centerpiece. Her mistakes earlier in the plot become instructive. She learns, adjusts, and reframes her approach. That humility is a narrative virtue here. Nathan's role in this medical arc is supportive but active. He isn't a mind reader or magic fixer. He's a partner who fetches samples, holds the horse steady, and keeps morale when the pressure grows. The series makes this partnership practical. It's about real tasks, and that concreteness pays off emotionally. Nathan is not there to take the spotlight, he's there to be steady. That choice elevates their relationship beyond romance. It becomes partnership in vocation. The social thread tightens. A local journalist picks up a rumor and an online thread piles on. The show uses that to illustrate how reputations are fragile in the modern age. Amy fights not only for a horse, but for her professional identity. She mounts an open demonstration, invites impartial experts, and shows the problem for what it is. The public reaction moves from doubt to respect. Heartland's message here is old but necessary: competence and transparency rebuild trust. Caleb and Ashley's domestic arc also continues. They have hard conversations, about past omissions and about boundaries going forward. Ashley asks for clarity, Caleb provides more honesty than he did previously. The arc is not linear, trust rebuilds and falters, but the episode gives them credit for trying. These scenes are intimate and quiet, a contrast to the public spectacle of Amy's professional test. The private effort is the show's real stakes. Dex's progress is quiet but visible. Under Jack's guidance, he begins to handle tasks with care. He confesses his fear about the future, and Jack answers not with platitudes but with a plan: coach him, teach him, and let him find another path that still includes work and dignity. The show's relationship between older and younger generations remains its emotional through line. Katie and Dex continue to bond through small acts, a shared chore, a joke, a moment of protection. Neither is rushed into romance, instead, their connection is allowed to breathe. That approach may be less clickbait-friendly, but for serialized character drama it's emotionally longer lasting. It models a slow, earned affection rather than instant chemistry. The hour ends with an uneasy calm. Amy's public demonstration reduces rumor, Nathan is slowly welcomed more fully into family rhythms, Caleb and Ashley are tentatively repairing, and Dex finds a path forward. The episode's final tone is one of work, not triumph. Nothing is finished, but a lot is started. Heartland's design is plain, recovery is ordinary and hard, and that ordinary effort is worth watching. The final segment pulls threads together and points toward what's next. By the close, Amy's professional credibility is stronger. She handled the Olympian's horse with care and willingness to be transparent. The public softens, the client's complaint becomes an instructive episode rather than a career-ending scandal. That outcome is satisfying because it rewards process over panic. The show honors slow competence, which fits its thematic soar. Nathan's deeper integration with the Flemings advances in a quiet, believable way. He has more screen time with practical tasks and light emotional checks. He comforts a kid, he helps fix a fence, he sits with a worried family member. The audience's acceptance of him is not bought with a single speech, it's earned through labor and small kindness. That approach allows viewers to root for him without asking them to forget Ty or deny the complexity of grief. Caleb and Ashley move through an honest conversation that doesn't end in perfect reconciliation, but in clear steps forward. Ashley asks for boundaries, for honesty, and Caleb meets her request with more openness. The show avoids a grand romantic closure and instead focuses on the mechanics of trust, the accountability measures, the conversations, the everyday choices that matter more than dramatic statements. Dex's future is the softer coda. He doesn't become a hero overnight, instead, he starts an apprenticeship that shows he's willing to pivot. His hockey dream is gone, but life at Heartland offers him a different kind of purpose. Katie's presence in his life is gentle, and the pair are set up to grow into something realistic, mutual care without melodrama. The episode's strengths and weaknesses are clear. It doesn't always achieve cinematic tension, the plain sequence is compressed, and a bare beat feels underused. At times the camera work and editing choices undercut suspense. Those technical issues are real and worth noting. But the script's character choices and the moral center redeem the hour. Heartland remains a show about people who fix what's broken by showing up. That ethic shows through every subplot. A final note, the episode is deliberately moral, not sensational. It asks us to value repair, conversation, and steady, humble competence. In a streaming world of shocks and twists, Heartland continues to offer a slower, quieter alternative. If you want noise, this episode won't give it. But if you want a reminder that trauma can be survived without spectacle, that people can learn and grow and not be reduced to plot devices, then episode 5 delivers on its promise. Amy's professional challenge will escalate into a larger test of reputation, watch how she negotiates outside pressure and whether she expands her services beyond local clients. Nathan's integration with the Flemings will deepen. Expect scenes that test his endurance as a partner and a stepdad figure. Caleb and Ashley's trust building will remain a season arc, not solved quickly, but addressed with real conversation. Dex will remain a key young character and a potential new romantic subplot with Katie. His apprenticeship arc is likely to show how younger characters find second chances in rural life. Meanwhile, the stranded pair's situation deteriorates. The plane's radio battery has been accidentally drained overnight. They lost a backup water supply earlier. The writers tighten the stakes with small, believable errors that push two pragmatic characters, Caleb and Nathan, into a pressure cooker. Then a large animal appears nearby, a bear, increasing tension without immediately becoming the primary threat. Caleb argues for staying put and conserving energy. Nathan wants to find water and a signal. This conflict is necessary. It reveals personality differences and sets up the argument that many fans expected to be fiery. In execution, that argument is muted, more simmer than explosion, but the episode deploys it to push the characters into action and to show how fragile their composure is when fatigue and fear mount. Nathan's decision to look for water drives the most consequential segment of the night. He ventures off, Caleb follows to make sure he is safe, and a misstep results in Nathan being injured. The injury is not only a plot device, it becomes the pivot point that shapes recalibration between the two men. Their tension, which had been quietly building on personal grounds, now shifts into cooperative survival. Physical harm forces a new dynamic. Caregiving, assessment, and mutual reliance replace one-upmanship and jealousy. That creative choice is sound. Transforming competitive friction into enforced partnership is a natural arc for characters in crisis. From a storytelling perspective, though, the episode struggles with pacing and impact. The scenes meant to frighten, the plane scare, the bear, the storm, are presented quickly, often without the slow burn build that made earlier seasons successful. Some sequences feel compressed, edited too tightly, which reduces suspense. Certain camera choices contribute. Handheld close-ups and jarring cuts sometimes make it hard to feel the danger emotionally. Viewers looking for a tense, cinematic survival episode may feel the episode cheats a bit, relying on quick beats rather than deeply rooted dread. That criticism isn't dismissing the effort, it's pointing out that this episode chose a quicker tempo rather than deep immersion. Back in the search party, Amy and Ashley face their own obstacles. The horses act unpredictably. Amy realizes they're not moving as a team. It's a practical problem with a thematic echo. People, like animals, need coordination and leadership to traverse danger. Amy has a moment of clarity. The horses will travel better side by side rather than in single file. When she implements that change, their progress improves immediately. It's a simple solution, and the series leans on it for symbolism, the strength of companionship and the effectiveness of shared direction. It's also a moment that some viewers found too tidy, like a children's show solution. Yet the show keeps returning to its core. Practical, horse-based problem-solving is Heartland's language. Those who accept that language will find the moment satisfying. Those who prefer complex plot logic may find it facile. The episode also works to deepen Ashley's backstory. The writers give her genuine weight. She's a mother, divorced, scarred by betrayal, and wary of trusting again. That context matters when Caleb's past attraction to Amy is revealed to have strained his marriage. Ashley's suspicion is not only reasonable, it's earned. Yet, the script's attempt to pin all of her trust issues on prior infidelity oversimplifies the interplay between Caleb's undisclosed feelings and Ashley's trauma. The truth is more complicated. Betrayal compounds when a partner doesn't communicate, and the show hints at that complexity but sidesteps full exploration. The result is a sympathetic portrayal of Ashley that nonetheless leaves some accountability edges unresolved. When Caleb and Nathan are finally found, the rescue is emotionally straightforward. Amy and Ashley's ride pays off. The two men are alive, shaken and bruised. Nathan's injury brings out a protective and vulnerable side, and Caleb, who has been brittle, softens. The narrative arc that begins in rivalry ends in working together. Scenes that initially felt schematic, a plane in trouble, a horse trick to save time, finally reach an emotional payoff. The reunion is not fireworks, it's quiet relief. That's where the episode regains its emotional footing. The danger was a vehicle to shift relationships. The show's conscience is in these quieter moments, and it's where Heartland still excels. Meanwhile, smaller subplots run parallel to the central story, and several of them are genuinely strong. Jack hires Dex, a new ranch hand who at first seems all bluster and little skill. Dex doesn't fit into ranch life naturally, he can't ride and has no farm experience. Lou and Lisa are amused and skeptical, and there's a wager about whether he'll last a week. That setup is light comic relief in the midst of heavier drama, and it functions as the series often has, grounding intense arcs with human, smaller-scale dynamics. Dex's character appears shallow at first, a typical new hire trope, but the episode layers him with a serious reveal. He was injured playing hockey and has lost his scholarship prospects. Suddenly Dex is no longer that confident stranger, he is a young man wrestling with the collapse of a dream. That backstory adds vulnerability to a character who might otherwise be one-dimensional. Katie's subplot complements Dex's introduction. She's nervous about meeting rodeo friends. She worries about clothing, looks, and fitting in, small, relatable anxieties that give her a human center. Lou's offer to buy her something new is a typical grandparental attempt to fix worries with an external change. It doesn't work. Peter's advice, however, is the turning point: authenticity will win the day. Katie decides to go as herself, with an instant camera gifted by Lou. The camera functions as a confidence tool, it's a device that encourages presence and recording memory rather than anxiety about perfection. At the saloon, Katie relaxes, laughs, and starts to build real connections. The subplot is modest, but it works because it is believable and warm. Heartland's strength often lies in these small victories, characters finding themselves through ordinary acts. Dex and Katie's interactions are carefully teased. Dex drinks and tries to show bravado, even attempts a mechanical bull ride, which falls flat. Katie is unimpressed. Later, after Dex is found sleeping in a stall, we learn the truth about his injury. Jack's reaction shifts from irritation to understanding. The moment is compassionate. A man whose life plan falls apart does not always react gracefully. Yet, Heartland chooses empathy over scolding, and that is consistent with the show's moral center. Dex and Katie are plausibly set up as a new couple dynamic. They're not Ty and Amy Redux, instead, they're younger people finding new paths when older dreams collapse. This subplot, in many ways, offers a hopeful parallel to Amy and Nathan's more fraught path. As the episode closes, the writers hint at what's next. Nathan will spend more time with the Flemings, integrating into ranch life in a deeper way. Amy faces another test: professional trouble. She will be entrusted with a high-profile Olympian's horse, a career opportunity with stakes, and failure to diagnose the animal's issue will invite rumors and damage her reputation. The rumor arc is a classic Heartland device: public skepticism threatens private livelihood. Yet in this series, rumor and career pressure become tests of character as well as plot devices. Nathan's increasing support is set as his response. The idea of him proposing marriage someday is suggested, less a promise than a directional arrow showing how his commitment will grow. There are structural critiques to be made. The survival storyline sometimes feels formulaic and the pacing uneven. Moments that could have had visceral suspense fall into brisk beats. That said, the episode redeems itself with character beats that matter. The emotional arcs are clearer than the spectacle. Caleb and Nathan's confrontation lacks the full heat many fans expected, but the slow burn into solidarity is believable. Amy's decision to push forward with Nathan, despite being haunted by Ty's memory, is the central moral of the hour. It shows how grief and new love can coexist, and how making a choice to stay alive emotionally is as brave as surviving a plane incident. To sum up, Episode 5 tries to balance action and emotional repair. Not every scene achieves cinematic terror, and some plot mechanics feel rushed or overly tidy. But the episode's core remains true to the series' strengths: honest characters, horses as instruments of healing, and the slow, patient negotiation of new relationships against the presence of the dead. Dex and Katie's subplot offers genuine warmth and the possibility of a new younger storyline, while Ashley's backstory adds depth to the trust issues that complicate Caleb and Amy's life. The rescue and reunion provide an emotionally satisfying close, even if the path to that close is uneven. This episode does not pretend to reinvent the show. Instead, it returns to Heartland's reliable formula: crisis reveals character, and character ultimately chooses love. For fans willing to prioritize emotional truths over taut suspense, Episode 5 offers meaningful moments and forward motion. Where it falls short, it does so in technique and in missed opportunities for tense immersion. But the heart, as always, remains. The rescue and reunion unfold with a mixture of relief and quietly earned realignment. When Amy and Ashley finally reach the field, the sight of Nathan and Caleb, battered, cold, but alive, brings a long release of tension. The show uses that moment not for spectacle, but for human reaction, raw gratitude, awkward apologies, and the thin, brittle conversations that follow trauma. These are the moments where the episode finds its emotional center again. Nathan's injury, while not life-threatening, is a narrative hinge. It allows the story to slow and test the relationships under pressure. Amy's care for Nathan is tender and practical. She sees wounds, assesses needs, applies first aid, but mostly she shows up. Her presence is not theatrical, it's familial in the purest sense. Heartland has always done those scenes well, and tonight it leans into that competence. Someone arrives, knows exactly what to do, and does it without fanfare. Caleb's arc shifts here. Where he entered the episode defensive and prickly, the strain of the field strips off posturing. When he is forced into a caretaker role, helping support Nathan, steadying their makeshift camp, something softens. His earlier glances, the tension that once read as jealousy, start to read more like regret. The writers don't make him perform a sudden redemption, they scaffold it: small acts, a humbled tone, a few honest lines. That slow change is believable. People who make mistakes don't always correct them with speeches, often they correct with consistent small actions. This episode recognizes that. Back at Heartland, the emotional ripples travel outward. News of the rescue fuels relief, but it also stirs conversation about boundaries, disclosure, and loyalty. Ashley, who rode out into the wild without hesitation, must reconcile her vulnerability with the possibility that Caleb once had feelings for Amy. The script asks the audience to sympathize. Betrayal is not abstract, it's felt in sleepless nights and questions about what was withheld. The episode could have exploited the melodrama. Instead it concentrates on the quiet work of trust rebuilding, honest conversations, checking assumptions, and admitting where people hurt one another. Meanwhile, Dex's backstory continues to earn the show a small, steady applause. The revelation of his lost hockey scholarship adds depth to a character who at first seemed like comic relief. Losing a dream changes a person, it either breaks them or forces a reframe. Dex, stumbling through the ranch chores and trying to look brave, is clearly processing that loss. Jack's treatment of him moves from dismissive to paternal once the kid's truth comes out. Jack's kindness is not grand, it's a practical rearrangement, a place to sleep, a chance to learn, a firm talk about how to turn pain into a next step. Heartland's strength is still in those simple pivots. Katie's subplot blossoms in a modest but satisfying way. The rodeo meet is not a cliffhanger, it's a character exercise. She learns to step into social situations authentically, no costume, no overcompensation, just herself, and she's rewarded with real connection. The instant camera device used here is clever, it is both metaphor and mechanic. It helps Katie see life from a new angle and frame memories instead of anxiously preparing for them. The writers give her small wins, which is all Heartland needs, steady accrual of self-confidence. The episode's structural choice to pair high-danger survival with low-stakes, personal growth pays off. One strand gives the episode urgency, the other gives it heart. The juxtaposition reminds viewers why they watch. It's not only the crisis, but what people do after a crisis that matters. The show resists turning Nathan's injury into a spectacle, instead it uses it to further humanize all involved. The rescue becomes a mirror. Who steps up without calculation? Who apologizes? Who is honest? These moral questions loom larger than any single action beat. Story-wise, the rescue and return bring the residents of Heartland back into a familiar orbit. Practical repairs, a bit of barn work, careful conversations at kitchen tables, that is the repair work of the episode. And the show uses that repair to seed future trouble. Whispers about Amy's professional reputation, the possibility of a high-profile client and a horse with an unfathomable problem to diagnose. The seeds planted here will be tested later, which is narrative economy at work, the episode uses now to set up later. Another quiet but important area the episode touches is community dynamics. The way neighbors and friends respond, phone calls, offers of help, quiet checkups, reinforces a bedrock theme of the series. Communities are where people return, and the ranch is a microcosm for that. Heartland's values aren't flashy, they're about repair, humility, and steady care. This episode may stumble in cinematic ambition, but it succeeds at those small communal acts. Finally, as the rescue closes, the lines between old grief and emerging hope blur less frighteningly. Amy is more present than in prior episodes. Nathan is not a mere placeholder, he's an active partner. Caleb is not entirely absolved, but he's on a path. Ashley's pain is not erased, but the show gives her agency and the right to ask for truth. These moments are not tidy, and Heartland refuses to make them easy. That restraint makes the emotional crescendos more believable when they come. The episode ends with a sense that the real work, rebuilding trust, family life, and careers, is only beginning. After the field rescue, the show pivots to life back at the ranch, recovery, practical fallout, and next steps. Small domestic scenes, a hot meal, a quiet bandaging moment, jokes that sting the edges of tears, compose much of the hour's center. Heartland often does domestic better than spectacle, and here the domestic snapshots allow characters to settle and speak plainly. The episode leans into restorative details, thermos coffee shared in a cold barn, a careful hand cleaning a wound, a hushed conversation that leans toward confession. When television slows down to these things, it often shows its best self. Amy's next test is professional. The show seeds this with the Olympian's horse angle. An opportunity appears, high profile, potential to bolster her reputation, and the kind of assignment that could take Heartland beyond local gigs. But with opportunity comes risk. The horse's problem proves mysterious. Amy's initial failure, a missed sign or wrongly assessed symptom, triggers gossip. In rural communities, reputations can be fragile. The show introduces this as a plot device, but it's also a real test for Amy. Everyone sees the stakes when a major client doubts you. Heartland uses that pressure to set up a classic moral dilemma: stand and defend your work publicly, or protect the community privately while you fix the issue. Amy's choice will reveal how much she trusts her training, her instincts, and her own perseverance. Meanwhile, Nathan continues to bond with the Flemings in small ways. He works alongside them, learning details of the farm, asking practical questions, offering his own skills where needed. Integration is always hard in families that carry trauma, but Nathan's steady presence and willingness to work quietly win him slow acceptance. It's a good arc for the character. He's not flashy, he's not a storm, he's a constructive force. The episode allows those daily details, fixing a fence, feeding brood mares, a late-night unloading of hay, to create intimacy. That intimacy feels earned because it's the product of labor, not dramatic speeches. Ashley faces her own internal conflict. While Caleb's behavior is one piece of her worry, the horse of Ashley's past, betrayal, is another. The show gives her scenes of reflection, late nights looking at photographs, a phone call with a friend, a short scene where she explains that rebuilding trust is harder than dismantling it. That honesty is essential. Heartland forgoes easy melodrama and instead allows slow revelation. It's satisfying because it respects complicated feelings. Ashley doesn't instantly forgive, nor does she simply leave. She chooses conversation and boundary setting, both of which are necessary and realistic. The episode also gently foregrounds the social media/rural gossip element. Word about Amy's struggle with the Olympian's horse leaks, rumors start, and the show explores how reputation is negotiated in a connected world. It's a modern pressure on a very old practice. The show recognizes that diagnostics are no longer just about ability, but also about perception. Amy's dilemma is raw: correct the problem or wrestle the rumor machine. Her response, quiet competence combined with transparent communication, becomes a model for how to recover. Dex's arc deepens here as well. He begins to work with horses under supervision. Jack's skepticism turns into a cautious mentorship. Heartland's wise elder archetype is at work, older, experienced people guiding younger ones to find their place. Dex's vulnerability makes him a magnetic character. He's not a replacement for anyone, nor does the show try to make him quickly heroic. Instead, his path is slow: learn, fail, try again. The audience invests in that arc because the show treats it honestly. Katie's budding connection with Dex gets softer screen time. They share a moment, a laugh, a small understanding. The two are not yet a fully formed couple, but the flint is there. Heartland sets up young love carefully. They bring each other back to joy rather than steal each other from pain. It's a gentle way to show a potential generational continuity, younger characters finding hope, while older ones repair their histories. Plot mechanics are not always elegant. Certain transitions, such as the shift from rescue to Olympian horse subplot, feel abrupt. The narrative is juggling multiple threads and sometimes drops the tension between them. But even when the episode feels episodic, the character throughline remains steady: people are trying to make better choices. That thematic throughline carries the hour even when the plot's edges are fuzzy. By the end of this segment, Amy chooses to be public and accountable. She sets up a plan to re-evaluate the horse, invites collaboration, and slowly reclaims the narrative. Nathan stands with her during the difficult conversations. That partnership, practical, steady, unflashy, is the show's emotional anchor. It tells viewers, love is not a rescue from loneliness, it's someone who stands beside you while you rebuild.